Students, how are you all? This video is in continuation with metabolism of xenobiotics part 1. So in the part 1, I discussed the phase 1 reactions. I told you about hydrolysis, then oxidation or hydroxylation. In that I told you about the monooxygenases or cytochrome P450 enzyme that is involved. So small questions can be asked on this, that why cytochrome P450 are also known as monooxygenase enzyme. So I told you that because it incorporates single atom of oxygen in the substrate. That's why it is also known as monooxygenase. Or there is one more term, that is cytochrome P450. This is also known as mixed function oxidase because this oxidizes two different substrates at a time. Out of these two substrates, we can say, needed by the cytochrome P450, one substrate is incorporating oxygen atom and other substrate is donating hydrogen atom as to convert another atom of oxygen molecule to water. So this is the reason that it is also known as mixed function oxidase. So in this video, I'll be discussing mainly the conjugation reaction, as this is the phase 2 reaction, and a role of xenobiotics in disease. So, as you all know that in phase 2 reaction, xenobiotic is conjugated with a hydrophilic molecule. For example, these are all the substances that are produced in our body. For example, glucuronic acid, glycine, glutamine, glutathione, and it is converted to the excretable product that has lost biological activity of the parent compound. So, uh, a metabolite of phase 1 reaction is subsequently conjugated with some other compound such as glycine or group like methyl group. So, we'll be discussing all this in detail, how glycine is conjugating with different substances and converting it to the excretable form or the less toxic form, we can say. Conjugation makes the molecule more polar and highly water soluble, which can be eliminated easily from the body. So most of the conjugation reactions are synthetic processes and thus require energy. So it is the process in which foreign compounds combines with a substance produced in the body. Okay, in this phase, the metabolite of phase 1 is conjugated with a hydrophilic molecule such as glucuronic acid, sulfate, glycine, glutamine, or glutathione. So, all these are the metabolites that are produced in our body. So, a foreign compound or a xenobiotic combines with the substance produced in our body and convert it to the hydrophilic or excretable form, we can say. So most of the reactions takes place in the liver. Liver is the major site of detoxification because it is equipped with all the enzyme machinery and yield water soluble products which are not only more water soluble and excretable but also lose biological activity of the parent compound. So conjugation may occur with the following compounds. So one by one we'll be discussing all these: glucuronic acid, sulfate, glycine, glutamine, and the glutathione. So this first of all is glucuronic acid. So this glucuronic acid is an oxidation product of glucose. It is the commonest reactions of phase 2. So glucuronyl moiety of UDP glucuronic acid is added to xenobiotics. So the enzyme is UDP glucuronyl transferase. So mostly transferases are involved in all these conjugation reactions. Some xenobiotic example: phenol, acetaminophen, diazepam, and morphine, that is an analgesic, are also conjugated with glucuronic acid and are all excreted as their glucuronide derivatives. So these phenol, acetaminophen, then diazepam and morphine, all these are conjugated with glucuronic acid. These are the examples of those xenobiotics that are conjugated with this glucuronic acid. Xenobiotic when combines with UDP glucuronic acid in presence of UDP glucuronyl transferase, we get xenobiotic glucuronide. So certain drugs, example barbiturates, when administered, induce glucuronyl transferase, and this increases the glucuronide formation. So glucuronic acid conjugation may occur with compounds containing hydroxyl, carbonyl, sulfhydryl, or amino groups. So these are the groups that are involved with conjugation with this glucuronic acid. Example of glucuronide conjugation, these are phenol. Phenol UDP glucuronic acid will convert to phenyl glucuronide. Obviously, all these transferases are involved in these reactions. Then benzoic acid, in presence of when conjugate with glucuronic acid, benzoyl glucuronide is formed. Bilirubin, of course, as I told you, it is a endogenous compound, so it is excreted after glucuronidation. So this bilirubin, when combines with this glucuronic acid, you know that bilirubin glucuronides are formed. So this is a hydrophobic molecule, is further processed by this reaction. So reaction to form conjugated bilirubin. After this, conjugated bilirubin is formed, which is more water soluble. So next is sulfation. Steroids and methyl dopa are examples of the drugs that are sulfated. So small questions can be asked on this. Even a OSPI can be formed or MCQ can be formed from this topic. The active form of sulfate, as you know, phosphoadenosine phosphosulfate, that is PAPS, participate in conjugation reaction, and the enzyme sulfotransferase is involved and transfers the sulfate group to the xenobiotic. Several aliphatic and aromatic compounds undergo sulfation. So PAPS serves as a sulfate donor. Alcohols, steroids, and phenols are usually sulfated and readily excreted. So these are the examples of sulfation. Then next is glutamine glycine conjugate. So glycine conjugates the bile acids. It also detoxifies many other substances. Example, benzoic acid, which is a food preservative. Several drugs are converted to corresponding thioester form and then conjugated with glycine or glutamine. For example, benzoic acid, after conversion to benzoyl CoA, is conjugated with glycine to yield hippuric acid. Then glutathione, it is basically an antioxidant compound. It is made up of three amino acids. So this can also come as a MCQ. Glutamate, cysteine, and glycine. All three amino acids are there in this glutathione. It is basically a tripeptide. So this conjugates many xenobiotics, including certain carcinogens, because it has also a role in it is also acting as an antioxidant. So it scavenge most of the free radicals. The enzymes catalyzing these reactions are called glutathione as transferases and occur in high concentration in the liver. So why it is known as GSH? This is the short form of glutathione because of the sulfhydryl group of cysteine, SH group, GSH. That's why it is designated as GSH. So X plus GSH will give you SG. The cysteine component of glutathione usually detoxifies alkyl or the aryl halides, alkenes, and the epoxides by the conjugation. So, for example, conjugation of anti-cancer drug, then cyclophosphamide by glutathione. These are the examples that this glutathione conjugates with anti-cancer drug as well as cyclophosphamide. Then some carcinogens and acetaminophen are conjugated with glutathione. Glutathione is gamma glutamyl glycinyl cysteine. This is the other name of this glutathione, as it is comprises of three amino acids. Conjugation occurs with the sulfhydryl group of the cysteine residue, and the glutamine and glycine residues are split off. The cysteine residue is acetylated to form the mercapturic acid, derivative of the xenobiotic, which is excreted. Now, little bit of chemistry to clinics. This paracetamol poisoning, a short note of 2 marks or 3 marks can be asked on this. So, as I already told you, the role of this reduced glutathione, this is basically acting as an antioxidant. So, the role of antioxidant is to scavenge the free radicals. So, paracetamol is the most popular antipyretic, that is a drug used to treat pyrexia, that is fever. So, it is metabolized mainly in the liver. An overdose of paracetamol generates excess of free radicals in the hepatocytes. So, excess of this paracetamol, this generates excess of free radical. Most of the free radicals are generated in the hepatocytes. So, what does this reduced glutathione, that is GSH, the most important intracellular antioxidant, is depleted in its effort to detoxify the free radicals because it gets oxidized in the process, as this reduced glutathione is oxidized to GSSG, that is the oxidized form. So the free radicals thus cause widespread cell injury which may be fatal if not timely treated. As otherwise also you know that there is the concept of giving multivitamins in different diseases. So what is the role? Um, there are few antioxidant vitamins. For example, vitamin C, A, E also has a role as an acting as an antioxidant. So they all these they scavenge the free radicals. So prompt administration of N-acetylcysteine, a sulfhydryl donor, replenish the intracellular pool of this GSH, thereby restoring the antioxidant capacity of the hepatocyte. So this is given after this administration. These scavenge the free radicals generated by this paracetamol. So this helps to recover from paracetamol poisoning. Now next is the acetic acid. So this acetyl-CoA, this is the acetyl donor in acetylation reactions which are catalyzed by acetyltransferase. So acetyl-CoA is the active form of acetic acid that take part in the conjugating reactions. So now these sulfanilamide, then caffeine and isoniazide. These are the three this thing drugs you can say that are conjugated with acetic acid and converted to acetyl derivatives. So N-acetyl transferase 2 transfers the acetyl group from acetyl to CoA to the xenobiotics. Then next is the methylation. Methyl group of S-adenosylmethionine is frequently used to methylate certain xenobiotics. This is catalyzed by the enzyme methyltransferase. So SAM is a methyl donor, you know. SAM is converted after catalyzing with this methyltransferase. It is converted to S-adenosyl homocysteine. Then next is the thiosulfate. The highly toxic cyanides are conjugated with thiosulfate to form less toxic thiocyanate. Then the most important part, that is role of xenobiotics in disease. So as we have already discussed that xenobiotics include compounds that act as foreign chemicals and can produce many diseases in humans and other living systems. For example, these metal pollutants exerts impaired mitochondrial function. So this mitochondrial dysfunction plays an important role in the pathophysiology of age-related chronic diseases such as metabolic syndrome, then diabetes, stroke, coronary artery disease, acute coronary syndrome, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, depression, and cancer. So all these basically this mitochondrial dysfunction displays the major role in the pathophysiology of these diseases. So fatty liver disease, this as you know, this results in the accumulation of fat in the hepatocytes. So it is affecting a large population throughout the world. So this results in accumulation of fat, that is steatosis in the hepatocytes. So the diagnosis of steatosis is made when fat in the liver exceeds 5 to 10% by weight. So fatty liver disease has been classified into two categories as alcoholic steatohepatitis, that is ASH, alcoholic steatohepatitis, and the non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, NASH. So, in alcoholic steatohepatitis, chronic alcohol consumption results in fatty liver due to production of toxic metabolites of alcohol, including aldehydes. And in non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, multiple factors including nutritional, then drugs and hepatic toxicants and metabolic disorders have been identified in the initiation and progression of the disease. So there is a link between a xenobiotic exposure and NAFL, that is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Link between xenobiotic exposure, which includes this pharmaceuticals and the non-pharmaceutical chemicals, and initiation and progression of the clinical course of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So, since as you know, liver is the major organ for the metabolism of drugs and the environmental agents, exposure to some of these agents may lead to lipid accumulation in the hepatocytes through increased fatty acid biosynthesis or mitochondrial dysfunction, modulation of nuclear receptor activation, then insulin resistance and impaired lipid excretion. So these can be the reasons. So moreover, progression from simple steatosis to steatohepatitis may be included by xenobiotics via oxidative stress, inflammation, stress, and cell death. Finally, exposure to chemicals may stimulate cell growth in the liver, which further increases the chance of developing hepatocellular carcinoma in patients with NASH, that is non-alcoholic steatohepatitis. Then cancer. The National Cancer Institute and the American Cancer Society have reported an increased risk of lung and other cancers, including cancers of bladder, then larynx, esophagus, stomach, and pancreas with diesel exhaust exposure. So, diesel exhaust has been classified as Group 1A carcinogen. Transition metals such as iron, zinc, chromium, lead, nickel, and polycystic aromatic hydrocarbons amounts high in the diesel exposure. So, all these chemicals trigger lung disease and cancer. Then high consumption of red meat and cancer. So, epidemiologic studies have suggested an association with the increased risk of several cancers and high consumption of red meat. So, it is suggested that chemicals such as heterocyclic amines are formed when meat is cooked at high temperature. So, these amines have strong carcinogenic potential in animals. Accordingly, red meat has been classified as group 2A, probably carcinogenic to humans. So next is the acrylamide. So another important xenobiotic is acrylamide. So it is reported that when refined grain is exposed to high temperature during bread production, acrylamide is formed in the bread. So this has been shown to be carcinogenic in animals and is classified as likely to be carcinogenic to humans. So it is suggested that whole grain bread should be consumed to reduce the risk. So World Health Organization has emphasized that the consumption of these unsafe foods, particularly we can say vegetables and fruits that contain harmful bacteria, viruses, parasites, and chemical substances such as this pesticide residues, cause more than 200 diseases ranging from diarrhea to cancers. Then bisphenol A. This food contact materials cause food to be exposed to chemicals such as polycarbonate plastic derivatives. For example, it is bisphenol A. So United States Environmental Protection Agency advised to protect sensitive populations, particularly infants and young children, against bisphenol A exposure. Then infertility. It is known that several xenobiotics and toxic metals cause DNA damage. Infertile patients with high levels of oxidative stress are more susceptible. The occupational and environmental exposure to certain pollutants can act as hormone disruptors and could be a cause of unexplained infertility. So that's all in this, you can say. So thank you, students. Do watch my previous video also. In that I have discussed the phase 1 reaction, that is also important. And if you have any doubts, you can send me in the comment section. So thank you.